Doing something different than the typical icy cool blonde. Today we're going to be warming it up a little bit. It's been about a year since my client has gotten her hair done. She's been waiting until she felt comfortable to try somebody new, so here's her before. Okay, to start with my client today, we're going to do a partial foilayage. She has really dark natural roots and her grow out is probably like to here. So even though it's really blended into her natural color, so we're gonna work on bringing her blonde up to probably right around here. She doesn't really want it brighter around her face. She likes it a little bit darker. And she feels like her ends are too blonde. So we're going to warm them up a little bit and kind of tone them down. And another thing too is that she has some extensions that she wants to blend with her hair. They're just clip-ins. So she feels like the darkest level of the extensions are too warm. So I'm gonna have to try and match the extensions, cool them down a little bit to try and match her natural hair color. And then also the ends of the extensions are like kind of pinkish. So I'm gonna have to go through and try and bleach through the extensions. So I feel like this is kind of a two-service, like the extensions, her color, it's pretty, you know, in depth for what we're gonna be doing today. I thought when she wanted to like color match her hair, she was talking about her extensions were maybe blonde. So, and I would just like swish it around in some purple shampoo and call it good. But, so hopefully I can lift through and bleach the extensions. She doesn't know if it's synthetic hair. I think it's natural, but like you never really know 100% unless you see it written in the package. So we're gonna do her hair and then the extensions also. And so right now we're going to mix her lightener to do her roots. To lighten her hair, I'm going to use 20 volume with Olaplex, and honestly, this is what I always use. No matter how dark somebody's hair is, I never go to 30 or 40 volume. I feel like if you use higher developers, it's just going to die out really fast, and then I don't get as good of lift. So I'm going to use 20 volume, and I've already done my other section on the opposite side, but I didn't get a very good angle for you guys, so I'm just going to start showing you when I got to this side. And when I do my applications, I usually like doing a small section on one side and then flipping to the other side. That way they get even lift. I don't want to do a whole half of the head and then this side is lifting really bright and then now I have to start on the other side and then that's going to take forever to match up. So that's why I kind of like staggering and going back and forth in sections. For doing her sections right here, I'm just taking a really thin subsection and pinning it back. We want to still blend a lot with her natural hair, but still brighten her up a whole bunch. And so I'm just going to do a really fine section, set it aside, and then for her section that I'm actually going to be lightening, I'm doing really small sections, really thin baby lights that I'm backcombing because we do have a lot of lift that we have to accomplish, so the larger the section, the harder it's going to be to get the warmth out. So that's why I'm taking pretty fine sections and just kind of staggering and going back and forth and then weaving again subsections in between. You can see how fine her grow out is, and so I know when doing her hair that she wants it brighter, but she's also going to want it to blend into her roots pretty good. So I feel like the pressure's on when you have somebody coming from somebody else, because clearly they were really happy with their hair before, and if they let it go a year in between without coming to somebody else, then it's like they're probably really picky and really particular about how they like their hair. So at this point in the service, I'm kind of nervous because I know that lifting the hair from really dark to super light can be hard sometimes, or maybe you don't know how your client's hair is going to lift. So I'm really worried that I might not get it light enough, but usually Schwarzkopf does a really good job with lightening. So if you guys haven't used that lightener before, you really should, because it honestly does have really, really good lift. And honestly, I never have to go over 20 volume. There's times when I've used other lighteners if I'm out and I want to maybe just try something else, and I'll use that lightener over Schwarzkopf, and I'll check my hair and it's still really, really like warm or brassy. And at that point, I'm just thinking like, oh my gosh, I know with my Schwarzkopf it would already be super pale yellow or super blonde already. So I definitely recommend Schwarzkopf if you guys haven't tried it. So now that I've done this little section, I'm going to pull all her hair back over onto the side, and then we're going to make our way back to the other side and try to do a little bit more detail work around the face. Not that she wants to do a lot of foiling directly on her face, but because her hair is so fine around the hairline, I feel like we need to do extremely smaller sections and finer detail work in that area to make sure that we have a nice blend around her hairline. So right around her hairline right here, you can see that I'm just doing a really fine weave. I'm not doing a really thick section, really just fine little baby light weaves just to make sure that she has some really soft brightness, but mostly it just blends really nicely into her natural hair. So when situations like this happen, when somebody has really fine baby hairs around their hairline, sometimes you really do just have to take smaller sections and just make sure that you get every little piece that you need, because if you leave out the little baby hairs, then when she pulls her hair back, or if she has her hair kind of parted on the side, then she's going to notice that she has like darker holes in her hairline where we didn't apply any lightener. So it's definitely worth it to take these smaller sections. That way they get even lift everywhere. So now we're going around her face, and you can see where that pink clip is. Just right below that, I have that little piece of hair that's just kind of falling right along her face. We're gonna make sure to leave that her natural color, because she said she doesn't want like a definite money piece or anything. So we're gonna leave her natural just right along her hairline. That way we preserve some of that depth that she likes. And this is it for this whole section. We just did basically from the ears and above, and then we're just going to go through with 30 volume if we need to. That's about the only time that I use 30 volume, is if I go through and I check the foils and I feel like there's still a little bit of warmth that needs to be pushed through. At that point, I will go through and remix and add 30 volume, just because I want it to blast through that warmth just at the very last 10 minutes of the processing time. So this is a perfect example right here, how it's still really warm, and this is when I went and I remixed my 30 volume, and we're just going to apply it so that it can push through just as fast as it can. I know I've kind of touched base with it before, but I really don't like putting my clients underneath the heater. I prefer just going through with my blow dryer and directing the heat where I feel like it needs it most. If I'm gonna apply 30 volume and then put her underneath the heat for 20 minutes or so, that could potentially cause a lot of damage, and it just honestly pushes a lot of heat at the top of the head, and that is like the worst spot if there's breakage, so I'd rather just use the blow dryer. Okay, let me say this part of the service was probably the most difficult. I thought when she said that she was going to come in with extensions and color match that we weren't going to actually be doing a whole color adjustment on the extensions. Usually people say that and it's just trying to retone the blonde or, swish it around in purple shampoo and call it good. So I highly recommend if you do this, you need to have your clients sign a waiver saying that you're not responsible or liable for any damage that's caused to the extensions. I mean, sometimes these cost hundreds of dollars, and you don't want to be responsible for having to pay back anything if somehow they get damaged, or I don't know what could happen. And I let my client know ahead of time that I'm not going to be able to get this perfect just because I have to weave the hair, and there's also dark in there and I just don't know how well it's going to lift. So there's just so many variables that can cause it to go one way or another. So just make sure that you, have your client sign a waiver and a contract or whatever so that they know that you're not responsible and that you're really not going to guarantee how the color turns out on the hair, because we really don't know all the treatments that these hair have been through, and so it's really not possible to say what the outcome is going to be. So I let my client know that ahead of time going into it. Also, because I'm very unsure of how her extensions are going to lift, I don't want them to be damaged or melt. So I'm honestly using a bleach wash with just hardly any developer and mostly shampoo. So we're going to pull out the foils. I feel like she got really nice even lift. We're going to go through and do some purple shampoo and then some conditioning treatments before we tone her hair. Okay, so my client is done lifting. She's sitting at the sink this shampoo bowl with a keratin treatment on her hair, and I have her extensions lifting also. So now we're gonna tone, and I've got to be honest, I'm kind of I'm trying to figure out what to tone her with. So the thing about, I've done so many neutrals and super ashy tones that it's kind of really few and far between when somebody comes in and they want a warm blonde. So I'm trying to figure out what to mix. And then also it's a very fine line between warm blonde and too caramely to where they think it's brassy. So I have to be really cautious because her hair is super white and she doesn't want it that bright. So I have to figure out what is going to be the perfect combination, the perfect toner to where she's going to feel warmer but not brassy. So I'm going to deliberate for a little bit, and then wish me luck. Okay, so I was looking and I found like just a 9N. I was hoping to find just like a 10N. So it's in the Redken. It's Redken shades. So I think I'm gonna do some 9N, and I think I'm gonna mix it with some Paul Mitchell, the Demi. I've mixed like that before where I've kind of like crossed lines before and it's turned out fine. So the thing is, I'm being honest with her and I'm just telling her like, this is the first time I'm doing your hair. Let me know if the color is off or if it's not exactly right. If it isn't, like, we can always go back and retone. Just, I think it's so important to keep an open line of communication with your client, because when you haven't done somebody before, like, you really have no idea what their idea of warm is. So that's why we're just gonna start with this and then go from there. Okay, I'm so happy I could cry. Look what I found, 10N. All right, doing good. So for toning her hair, I decided to go a little bit on the lighter side than what I originally was thinking that she would want, because I'd rather stay lighter, and I had told her this because we can always go darker. So if she feels like she's still too light, then we can retone and go darker. Whew, sweet Jesus. Okay, thank you, Lord, because I asked her, like, does she feel like it's too light still? And honestly, it did look pretty light. Like, I was kind of thinking like the toner didn't do too much. Like, it kind of warmed it up, it kind of softened it a little bit. It didn't have that like super bleachy look anymore, but I was still just thinking like, oh, Lord, I don't know if it's the right color. And thankfully she's happy with it. So I told her, just go ahead and look at your hair. I'm gonna mix for her toner for her extensions to do like the darker color. And so I told her to just check it out. If she feels like there's anything we need to adjust, we can do it here, you know, just have a few minutes to look at your hair, make sure you're happy with the color that it is. So while she's doing that, making sure she's happy with the color of her blonde, I'm gonna go through and tone the darkest part of her extensions. And I think I'm gonna use 5NA. And I don't really use Redken, so we'll just see what happens. So for doing this part of the hair, I am just one at a time. I've gone through and I've laid the extension down, and then I've applied the lightener. So now I'm at the end of the application. I just wanted to show you, I'm just kind of trying to squeeze it in there, and then I'll blend it through the ends a little bit. And then for the blonde, we just went through with purple shampoo. So here's the final look for her hair. I'm so glad that she was happy with it. She was actually really, really excited and thrilled with how it turned out. She's definitely really nice and light, but she just has a little bit of warmth to it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.